Hello everyone, warm welcome to Regulatory Bodies YouTube channel by Textbook. So my name is Madhav Sir. I welcome you all in the next session where we are going to discuss the current affairs related to RBI. We know this very well that if you are preparing for any examination related to regulatory bodies, RBI related current affairs are very important because many questions are going to be asked from the same. So in order to help you guys to prepare really very well for the same, we at Textbook comes up with this session, and in this particular session we are trying our level best to give you the ever best content for your upcoming examinations, specifically focusing on the news related to RBI. In this particular session, what we basically come up with, in this particular session, we will be discussing the RBI latest notifications, RBI latest notifications. Along with this, we will be discussing the RBI latest press release, speeches, and many other areas. So before we wait more, I guess this is the right time to start with the discussion. And before we start the discussion, may I have a reply in the comment section that I'm audible, visible, everything is fine, we are good to go, so that we can begin the discussion. Okay, thank you so much for your reply, guys. Let's get started. But before I start the discussion, I would request you, along with me, copy the link of this session and share it with your friends so that more and more students, they are aware that yes, this session is live. Today we are going to discuss very important news, specifically related to, I would say, the news which has I would say great probability that the question will be asked from this news in the upcoming examination for sure. So let's get started, guys, without any further delay. Let's begin the discussion. And here we go with the first news of the day. But before that, I have a very important update for you all. And the update is, we at Textbook comes up with 6 sessions in a week where we discuss the weekly current affairs for all the specific areas, where we have the current affairs related to ESI, that is PIB, finance, RBI updates, government schemes, ESI, as well as IMF. I'm talking about the important reports as well. Now, before I start the discussion, I would like to discuss one important aspect. The important aspect is the use of AI in the banking process, challenges around bias and data ethics, RBI bulletin. So this news was discussed in the last session, if you remember. If you don't remember, then I would request you, please go back and watch the last session. And when we have discussed this particular news, at that particular moment, I have made it very clear, loud and clear, that this is something which can be asked in your upcoming examination. And recently, one examination was conducted, and in that particular examination there was an essay writing question, and obviously the examination was not related to specifically your regulatory bodies or anything like that, but yes, the examination was one of the state PCS exam, and in the state PCS examination they have asked a direct question on this particular, I would say, content, or this particular option. One of the option was there in the essay writing wala part. So that is why I always say the areas which we discuss in this session, they are really very important. So not in RBI directly, but yes, one of the state PCS examination has asked essay based on the same topic which we have covered in the previous session. Got it, guys? Chalo, let's move on to the today's news. So today's news is directions for central counterparties. Now the question is, so what do you mean to say? What we are going to get in this particular news? So first of all, before I start the discussion, I would come up with a statement that RBI has come up with a notice related to the central counterparties. So you must be worried and you must be thinking that what is central counterparty. So I'll jump and directly touch the point. Central counterparty basically means a system provider who, by way of novation, interposes between system participants in the transactions admitted for settlement thereby becoming the buyer to every seller and seller to every buyer for the purpose of effecting settlement of their transactions. So this is a very important term. First we understand this, then we will be moving ahead and discussing the entire news. So what is this? I'm just removing my image so that you can see the screen properly. So RBI has recently given the directions related to central counterparty. But the question is, what is central counterparty? Central counterparty is basically a system provider. It is basically a system provider who, by way of novation, interposes between system participant in the transactions admitted for settlement, thereby becoming the buyer to every seller and seller to every buyer. Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? So what is central counterparty? So central counterparty is basically an organization which is responsible to complete the settlement, and it interposes between the system participants. It comes in between the system participants. For example, if I come up with a very simple example for this, let's suppose you are sending your funds from PhonePe and you have sent this fund to an individual by, I would say, scanning the UPI code through Paytm. Now from PhonePe, the amount will be debited from your bank account and it will be credited, or it is ought to be credited in the Paytm holder's bank account. But do you think it is so easy to implement? No, sir. There is a middle party involved which is responsible for the settlement. So this settlement authority, who is the buyer to every seller, for example, Paytm, this is the seller who is selling out the product. So he is basically the buyer to every seller. He is basically the buyer to every seller and seller to every buyer in order to complete the process of settlement. Without the process of settlement, obviously there is no mode of transactions required, or no mode of transactions can be completed. Is it clear, everyone? So next time someone asks you what is central counterparty, what you will reply? So central counterparty is basically a system provider. I repeat, central counterparty is basically a system provider, and central counterparty is responsible to act as a mediator, to act as an intermediary between buyer and seller in a transaction. So CCP, it acts as a buyer to every seller and seller to every buyer. That means they collect money from both the parties and guarantee in terms of trade. CCP also provide clearing and settlement service for variety of the financial instruments, including securities, options, foreign exchange, and derivatives. Remember that CCPs, they are essential to the financial system because they manage counterparty risk, as well as they connect multiple banks, corporations, and other financial counterparties because they act as a mediator, they act as an intermediary between the same. Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear now? So remember this point. This is really very important. What is a counterparty? And now RBI has come up with the directions related to the counterparty. So let's discuss those directions quickly. So if I start those directions, the first point is applicability. These directions which we are going to discuss, they are applicable to domestic central counterparty which are authorized to operate in India under Payment and Settlement Act 2007, and also to the foreign counterparties which are recognized by RBI that they will be operating in India under the same act for the operation including clearing and settlement in India. Secondly, in this definition, the first point, whenever I use a word act, it is basically I am mentioning Payment and Settlement Act 2007. Authorized central party means the central counterparty to whom certificate of authorization is issued by RBI. So if someone asks you who is responsible to issue the license or certificate of authorization to RBI, then your answer would be authorized central counterparty receives its issuing certificate, or I would say the certificate of authorization by RBI, or in short, who is the regulator? Sir, RBI is the regulator of this particular authority. Second point, sir, company shall mean a company as defined in section 2 of Companies Act 2013. Control shall include right to appoint majority of directors and to control the management of policy, which I will be discussing in the near future itself. Now, we will be talking about counterparty or central counterparty organizations. We will be talking about how the board of directors are appointed, what are the conditions under which license will be provided by RBI to the domestic central counterparty. Then we'll discuss the non-executive directors, what is their role in this. We'll talk about the senior management, as well as we'll talk about the user. User basically means a regulated entity admitted as a member of CCP in terms of its bylaws, rules and regulations for the purpose of clearing and settlement of its trades concluded in the ordinary course of business. So all those organizations which are regulated under RBI and they are involved in a trade, for example, X and Y, they are involved in a trade, X is selling, Y is buying. That means Y is responsible to pay the amount and X is responsible to receive the amount. So this is R for amount and this is S for selling, that is the goods. So we need a counterparty which will be responsible to receive the funds from one and pay it to the another. It acts as a counterparty to avoid counterparty risk, and basically these two parties which I have mentioned, they are the system participants. That means they are the organizations which are involved in the day-to-day payment transactions, or which provide the service of payment transaction, as I took an example earlier, that is PhonePe as well as Paytm. Now let's start the discussion with the first one. The first is governance of domestic central counterparties authorized to operate in India by RBI. Remember that. What kind of questions can be asked in the examination? The first question from this particular topic which can be asked in the examination is, they can ask you central counterparty is registered under which act? Then your answer would be, it is registered under Payment and Settlement System Act 2007. Second question can be asked, it is regulated by? Then your answer would be, it is regulated by RBI. Third question which can be asked, what we have studied till now, that it act as what? Sir, it act as a mediator between the system participants and it is responsible to complete the settlement of transactions done in terms of general or ordinary course of business. In terms of general or ordinary course of business. Is it clear till this point? Is it clear to everyone? Those who are live, do reply in the comment section, please. Do reply in the comment section, please, if it is clear till this point. Now, let's move on to the next point. I'm pretty sure the next point is also really very important and you are going to enjoy the discussion the way I'm going to come up with the next point. So the next point is composition of the board. This is one of the favorite question of RBI. RBI can directly ask you, as per the latest norms, what is the, or what could be the composition of central counterparties. So your answer would be, so the composition of the board includes, the board of every authorized central counterparty will include nominee directors, independent directors, managing directors, and the other directors which are going to be nominated by RBI from time to time. Now, board shall have minimum number of directors which are specified in the Companies Act 2013, and the independent director, they have the same meaning as assigned to them under the Companies Act 2013. So basically minimum number of directors, they are equal to the number of directors as specified in Companies Act 2013. Now I have a question for you. What is the minimum number of directors? What is the minimum number of directors in company, in a company under Company Act 2013? Any idea, guys? Under Company Act 2013, any idea? Sir, the answer to this is, if you are talking about a public company, sir, in case of public company, what I mean with the term public company, so public company basically means the company which has issued its shares openly to the public, that is a public company. And if it is a private company, then in that particular case, your minimum directors is going to be 2. And if you're talking about one person company, which is possible these days, then in this case, minimum director is 1. Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear, everyone? Will you remember this? Minimum count of directors, it depends on the type of company I'm talking about. So if the company is a public company, then the minimum directors required, the minimum director required is what? So that is 3, then 2, then 1. There is one more condition. Company can have up to, maximum directors, company can have up to 15 directors. Company can have up to 15 directors, but can appoint more by passing the special resolution at general meeting. I'm not saying they cannot appoint more than this. So for sure they can appoint more than this. They can appoint more than this, but they need to pass a special resolution. Now the next question is, what is the definition of independent director? What is the definition of independent director of the company? Independent director of the company, as it is mentioned that according to the definition mentioned under the Companies Act. So my answer would be, independent director is a member of company's board of director, member of company's board of director. But the best part is, he is not involved in company's day-to-day operations. Not involved in companies, not involved in companies day-to-day operations. I hope you can see I'm writing on the screen. That should be visible to you. So it is not, it does not for day-to-day operations. Secondly, it does not have material interest in the company. No material interest in the company. Material interest means you are not holding any kind of shares of the company. So no material interest in the company. If these conditions are fulfilled, then that individual is termed as independent director. Is it clear? Next time if someone asks you what is independent director, sir, independent directors are also termed as outside directors or non-executive directors, the members of the board of director who is not involved in the company's day-to-day operation and does not have material interest in the company. It is only responsible to improve the strategy and governance of the company on day-to-day basis. Is it clear? Just give me yes, sir, if it is clear till this point. Quickly, guys. If it is clear, just give me yes, sir, so that I can move on to the next point. I can bet on this, that this question has a great probability that it can be asked in the examination. That is the reason I'm discussing this part in much detail with you. Moving on to the next point. The next point is nominee director. So what do you understand by the word nominee director? So nominee director means the director which are nominated by any shareholder in pursuance of articles of association of central counterparty or any financial institution in pursuance of previous of any law, time being in force, or any agreement. So basically nominee directors are those who are nominated by the shareholders depending upon the prior tie-ups. Managing director shall be an ex officio director on the board and shall not be included in either the category of independent or nominee director. So managing directors, so they are also known as the directors of the company, but they are not included either in the category of independent director or in the category of nominee director. The number of independent directors on the board of the committee of central counterparty should be at least equal to the number of nominee director, including managing director. In case of any equality of votes, the chairperson of board or committee shall have the second casting voting right. Now what is it? Please pay attention. What is the number of independent directors? Sir, independent director count will be equal. Independent director count will be equal to the number of nominee directors, including the managing director. And if at the time of voting there is a tie, that means we have a situation, we are voting on it, and let's say we have in total 10 members, 5 voting in each side or 5 voting at one side in that particular format. So in this case, so according to this particular case, what will happen? So according to this particular case, if there is a tie, then one extra vote will be casted. One extra vote will be casted by the chairperson of the board or committee, and he will be casting a second vote. He has also casted one vote at the time of original voting, but now if there is a tie, then he has a power to cast one extra vote, and he will be casting an extra vote in order to overcome the situation of tie. If you remember, the same is followed in case of monetary policy committee. In case of monetary policy committee, if there is a tie, then one extra vote is casted by the RBI governor as a chairman of monetary policy committee, because the first vote he casted, that vote was casted as a member of monetary policy committee, but next and one extra vote will be casted if there is a situation of tie. No foreign institutional investors shall have any representation in the board of authorized CCP. This is very important. So if you have a foreign institutional investment, you will not be having their representation on the board. The last is the quorum for a meeting of a board of directors shall be 1/3 of the total strength. So 1/3 of the total directors should be present. Then only the meeting will be lodged on the books. Then only this meeting will be considered as a meeting. Otherwise, if count is less than 1/3, then that will not be registered as a meeting. So 1/3 of the total strength, or 3 directors, whichever is higher, or 3 directors, whichever is higher. At least half of the directors attending the meeting on the board shall be independent directors. So this is very important. Please note it down. Let's suppose we have in total 12 directors. Meeting will be conducted. If we have 1/3 of the members, 1/3 of the member is 1/3 of 12, which means 4. So 4 is greater than minimum count, that is 3. So minimum members or minimum directors required for conducting a meeting is 4 directors, and out of these 4 directors, we must have at least 2 independent directors. Out of 4, at least 2 must be independent directors. Then only this particular meeting will be considered. Then only this meeting will be considered as a legal meet. Then only this meeting will be considered as a legal meet. Got it, guys? Clear? Shall I move ahead? Got it? Shall I move ahead? Do reply in the comment section, please. Okay. Now, the next point is, after the composition wala part, now we have the roles and responsibilities of the board. So establishing clear strategic aims for the CCP, ensuring effective monitoring of senior management, establishing and overseeing the risk management functions, overseeing internal control functions, ensuring compliance while all the supervisory and oversight requirements, establishing appropriate compensation policies, ensuring consideration of financial stability, and providing accountability to the owners, participants, and other relevant stakeholders. All those members which are included in general case, they are also included in this case as well, which basically means what? It basically means all the basic functions. It basically means all the basic functions of the board of directors, where you are responsible for fulfilling the rules and regulations, framing the rules and regulations, strategy, managing the senior management, establishing the risk management functions, then overseeing the internal functions, then ensuring compliance, establishing appropriate compensation policies, ensuring consideration of financial stability, and finally, you must be accountable to the owners, participants, as well as ensure fair and transparent conduct of CCP. These are the functions which are ought to be done by whom? So these are the functions which are ought to be done by, which are ought to be done by whom, sir? Which are ought to be done by the organization, that is CCP. Now, I have a PDF which was basically presented by RBI. So I'll quickly discuss the PDF with you. That will be better to visualize the way RBI has presented it. So we have already discussed the accountability. We have discussed the composition wala part. Then we have discussed the roles and responsibilities. After the roles and responsibilities, there is a point after the roles and responsibilities, there is a point that is related to the conditions of appointment of the directors. Conditions of appointment of the director. If I talk about the conditions of appointment of the director, in this case, what all things are important for you? In this case, the things which are important for you are, please pay attention, appointment of all the directors. Please pay attention, all the directors shall be made by the board of CCP. This is important. Next point which will be important or which can be asked in the examination related to the same is appointment of the chairperson. And in the case of appointment of the chairperson, they can ask you a question, and that question which they can ask you is basically the maximum permissible age for appointment. So the maximum permissible age for the appointment of the chairperson is how many years? So that is 70 years. This could be asked. After this 70 years wala part, which can be directly asked in the examination, you just read out this PDF. I'll share it on my Telegram, but word by word coverage is not required. What next is required? So the next part which is required is RBI in this particular notification has also discussed about the minimum capital requirements. So if I talk about the capital requirements, here we go. So the net worth of central cooperative, net worth of central cooperative, net worth of central counterparty is going to be what? Every applicant, if you want to get a license of central counterparty, then the minimum net worth should be 300 crores at the time of submitting the application. Next, very important question, that if a company wants to register itself as a central counterparty and aim to work as a mediator between the system participants to make their settlements, then the net worth required is 300 crore rupees. The adequacy of net worth requirement of CCP would be reviewed by RBI from time to time, which is right now fixed as 300 crore, but in the near future it can be changed, it can be reviewed, it can be increased. Next is ownership. This ownership wala part is applicable only on the domestic CCP. The authorized CCP shall be a public company, limited by a share. The shares of an authorized shall be held by persons who are users of the authorized CCP. If a person ceases to be a user, the CCP shall ensure that person's shares are divested. For example, if you are holding a CCP, then that particular shareholder should also be the user. That means the customer, the client, the system participant who is using the services of CCP. If I'm no more using the services of CCP because I'm no more the user, then my shares are need to be divested as per the term or as per the conditions set by RBI. Next point is eligibility for acquiring or holding shares. If I talk about the eligibility, no person shall directly or indirectly acquire or hold equities of an authorized CCP. No person shall transfer, disinvest, sell, buy equity of authorization without RBI approval if the transfer of share is equal or more than 5%, where the acquisition of share, okay. If there is an acquisition of share of value more than 5%, that cannot be done without RBI approval, and authorized CCP shall inform RBI about the transfer or disinvestment within the 15 days. If the value is below 5% and pre-approval of RBI is not required, then once the transfer is done, after the transfer of shares or after the disinvestment of shares, within 15 days, intimation should be given to RBI. Intimation should be given to RBI. The next one is directions for recognized foreign central counterparties. In the case of foreign central counterparties, nothing much is important. You can just read it. When I read it, I think there was no point which can be directly asked in the examination. So foreign wala part, you can just read it, but rest part from where the question can be asked in the examination, I've highlighted it. Go through with the PDF. I will be sharing it on my Telegram channel, and I'm pretty sure if you read this particular PDF, you will be in a position to answer most of the questions related to this in the examination. Now, if you want to clear your upcoming RBI Grade B 2025 examination or all the upcoming regulatory body exams, please enroll yourself in the Lakshya batch. Use code MADHAV in order to enjoy maximum discount. You can download the PDF of this session from this particular Telegram channel. Scan the code, join the channel, and I will be sharing the PDF on this channel itself. So thank you so much. We'll catch you in the upcoming sessions to go. Hope you must have enjoyed the discussion. Do not forget to cover this topic in much detail, because there is a high probability that the question will be asked from this particular topic in the examination. Is it clear, everyone? Thank you so much for joining. We'll catch you in the next session. Bye bye. Good luck. God bless you all.